Hello, Goddess. Welcome back. This is Andrea with You, Our Mind, Body, Soul. And in this temple space, I guide your inner goddess to bridge the mind, body, and soul through psychosomatic education, consciousness reconditioning, as well as alchemy and energetics. Come on in. Hopefully, you have something to hydrate yourself with. I've got a nice tall glass of water. And I'm so happy to be back with you on the very first day of Mercury retrograde. Let's do this. So, I felt inspired to talk about the topic of resetting today. And before I get too deeply into the topic, I want to remind you to please like this video so that the algorithm can do its magical, mysterious thing. Please remember to share this video so that other goddesses, such as yourself, can receive these messages, and please remember to subscribe to this channel so that you can get notified as I get these downloads and share these videos every Monday. And apparently you have to press a notification bell to get these reminders of these videos on Monday. So thank you so much for doing that and supporting the channel and this free content with your continued support. So let's get into it. Today I want to talk about resetting yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually, and the importance of this. So, what exactly is a reset? Okay, so a reset is when we are bringing ourselves back to a type of authentic vibrational state. And in this case, I'm using the term authentic to refer to something that is your natural energy, your natural essence that is unencumbered by the noise and the different filters that we put onto our mental, physical, and spiritual selves. So I first started on my journey to recognize and understand the importance of resetting at a couple of different junctures along my journey. The first one was when I did a physical reset. I had gained a lot of weight in college and I was just very uncomfortable in my body, very sluggish. I had, that's back when I was dealing with the anxiety and the depression, and it was ruling my life. And I initially did a nutritional reset. So I started to detox my body. I cut out all of the sugar cravings and things like that. And I got down to the bare bones of my nutritional lifestyle. And I did that. I remember doing it probably for like 3 or 6 months. I lost over 20 pounds. And for me, that was a reset because up to that point, I was in college. I was a pre-med student, so my course load was very rigorous. I was also participating in different leadership activities in school. So my whole consciousness was wrapped around this identity and prioritizing those things that I was trying to accomplish, which was graduating college. But when I had no choice except to focus on my health, because at the time I was a little hypertensive, like I had gotten my blood pressure taken. I did it 2 times in a row. And on both occasions, it was high. And I knew what high blood pressure looked like and the consequences of it because, of course, I was a pre med student. I was working in emergency medicine. One of my parents had got diagnosed with hypertension and high cholesterol. So seeing my blood pressure high just really scared me into action. And so I had to reset my nutritional lifestyle. And what this did was it helped me to find a baseline nutritional process that supported my body and in doing the things that I needed to do, because all of my life I was a dancer, an athlete, and I had strayed away from that. So that was my first experience with a physical reset. Okay. The second time in my life that I actually had a reset was when I was postgraduate. So I was out of college and I started to deepen into my studies and the process of consciousness, which was actually springboarded from this physical reset that I did with my nutrition. Because one of the things that I discovered by cleaning up my nutrition and changing the things that I was putting into my body to feminize my body, it was actually shifting my consciousness and my mental energy and the way that I was seeing life. So I got a lot more curious about this reality and my role in the reality, as well as my identity. And this is kind of when I started to get into identity work, because I realized that it was so much more than just becoming a doctor. And realizing that life is also not linear. So I realized that life was non-linear, that there was no prescription for, my journey in life. And so if you can relate to this non-linear existence that we are on, especially as feminine beings, please comment below. I would love to hear about your experience, or just let me know that this message is resonating with you. So the second time I did a reset was even deeper, because now I had the awareness about what my body required from years of understanding and discipline, nutritional discipline. It was just this fundamental understanding that my nutrition was the baseline framework for everything in my life. And that is why I created the 14-day Mind, Body, Soul reset course. So the second reset that I did started to evolve, and it started to become deeper and more thorough. So what I did was I actually did what I call a blackout. I was tapped into the energy of a lot of conscious mentors when it comes to the way that, this reality is affecting us and society. And I was inspired to go for, I think I want to say it was a week of silence. So I did a silent retreat. I purchased all of my groceries. I filled up on gas, and I just did not speak. Okay. And the first time that I did this must have been about 7 days. So I turned off my phone at the time. I had the privilege to be able to unplug and not have to use a phone, not have to go to work, because at the time I was independent. I didn't have to clock in or clock out or anything like that. So I just took 7 days to essentially go off of grid. And I spent that time journaling and quiet, not having to intake or process any kind of external energy or stimulus. And there is something about not speaking that sensitizes you auditorily. So, what you are listening and what you are receiving, you will find that you begin to get cosmic downloads. And at that time, I was already connected with my psychic energy and my psychic journey. So, I knew the importance of being a divine receptacle for information. And I was eating clean. I was going out and receiving the sunlight, doing yoga out in the sun and just in silence. I remember walking through my neighborhood, and the neighbors would wave at me and things like that, and I just kind of nodded, and I just put myself into this space of reverence and this safe space of quietude. And I received so much about my life path and my journey. And I received so much clarity about what it was that I was actually brought here to do. Now, I have not had the privilege of going on a silent blackout reset like this. It's been quite a few years, because my journey has taken me into multiple different states over the last years. And we have had the pandemic since then, and life has just been unfolding and evolving so much. But I was sitting back and I was reflecting on this time where I actually had the privilege to be able to reset and just remembering how powerful that was. And I will say that I was able to do a blackout one time during the pandemic. I actually was able to do that for 3 days. And I'm telling you, there is something about silence and about, cleansing out your filters of perception that just will give you so much, and it will accelerate your path because now you will be clear. You will be tuned into what is important in your relationship with God, spirit, source, and your ultimate authentic life purpose. It's so valuable. And so, as I have grown in my journey, I recognize that there are always ways in which we can reset ourselves. And there are simple daily resets that we can do, which are morning and evening rituals. They don't always have to be so well orchestrated and planned. They can be simple habits like your morning and your evening ritual. And recently, I have been plugged into many wellness sources. So I'm aware that there are things like float therapy. So you can go to a local spot and check out some float therapy, which is a form of sensory deprivation. And you lay inside of, like a pool of water, and you have it's all dark and it's either silent. Some places you can be in silence. Some places have meditative music playing, but just depriving your senses a bit will help to reset your consciousness through your nervous system. And being inside of that water is like being inside of a womb. And it's just so important for us to be aware of these opportunities to connect us with our original source, because as we grow and as we evolve in age, every chapter of our life, every accomplishment, everything that we define ourselves by, then becomes a layer of clothing that we are adding on to our self perception. And that then changes us, because when we were children and when we were back into our original selves, we were not affected by things that were happening around us as much as we are now. I love going back to inner child work, and I feel that it is so essential to be tapped in to inner child work to find out what it was that lit your inner child up and the things that also set you back as a child, because we are all just people in these grown ass bodies trying to do the best that we can with the information that we are taking and we are wearing like clothes. So your inner child, I have found my inner child is always authentic. And in my process of growing out of a state of survival and into a place where I am thriving and not feeling like I am a victim of these emotional patterns and of these karmic patterns in relationships, and really recognizing that my life is a result of my personal vibration, which is my personality. Therefore, everything that I am attracting is, in essence, a vibrational match for who I am or who I was at the time in which I called that thing in. So hopefully you're following along with me, because this stuff is so important. So what happens is, with our lenses of perceptions, all of our five senses, we are soaking up life, whether or not we are doing this intentionally, whether we are intentionally aware of what we are absorbing or whether we are not aware of it. We are absorbing and we are filtering in those things that we want to be influenced by through awareness, through awareness and intentionality, and by default. And so what happens is, oftentimes a lot of people are unable to define themselves outside of some type of external validation. So if I was to ask you, who are you? And this is something that you can journal out. Ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? Pause the video and just take a moment and write down like three things that come to mind. The second journal question that I want you to ask yourself is, why do I love myself? Do I love myself, and why do I love myself? Pause the video. Okay. So once you have those things written out, I want you to look at that list and I want you to ask yourself, are these things that I am defining myself by as a role? Are these roles that I show up in life that I play? So if you ask yourself, who am I? And the first thing that comes up is a mother, a daughter, a teacher, things like that, things that are defined by the roles that you play in your life. When you respond to the question, why do I love myself? Is it because of something that is actually real? Or is it something that is an extrinsic value that you can put on and take off? Because the things that we can put on and take off, like our clothes, our great fashion sense, our ability to people please, all these different things can be removed from our lives in the blink of an eye. And that is actually what happened to me, and life had to strip away so many of these things that I placed value on, that were extrinsic to my authentic self. And my happiness was something that I fought for so long, that as these things were stripped away from me, and I got so sick and tired of being a suffering victim. Like, I just got so tired of that victim mindset. It's so boring and it's so freaking draining to always be a victim of something. Like, I just got tired of my shit. And so, as things were getting stripped away from me, at one point I was even homeless. I made it a point to wake up every day of my life and to bring gratitude in my life just for existing and breathing. And I started to bring awareness to my personal vibration. And I started to consider, what is the spectrum, the sliding scale of emotional frequency that I resided in inside of my body, regardless of the circumstances. So, for example, did I wake up complaining about life before anything even happened? It's like, I remember those times where I would just wake up miserable because I had to go to a job that I hated, or because of something that somebody did or said to me the day before. When I started to do my inner work and I started to cleanse my vibrational frequency from these toxic emotional and thought patterns, I started to wake up and I started to be grateful without having to be worried about the things that didn't even happen yet, about the things that were so irrelevant to just waking up and breathing. And this is why it's so important to meditate, and that's why it's so important to just have the quiet time of journaling and inner work. And this is something that I learned. So when we offer ourselves some time to step back from the hustle and the bustle and the grind, that masculine paradigm of living, we are able to call upon the power of our feminine energy to flow and to authentically guide us into our highest and most beautiful path. And this can occur, and there are mundane ways and then there are magical ways. So there are mundane ways of resetting, which I mentioned was a morning ritual, waking up, being grateful, not just automatically picking up the phone or turning on the radio, or automatically finding and needing to be fed by some type of external stimulation. The question is, can you exist in this human experience? You are a human being, you are a spiritual being having a physical experience. Can you exist for the first few moments of your life without the world infiltrating your life and infiltrating your being? Are you happy with who you are without having to be fed by information and stimuli. So what I'm talking about is destimulating your body, destimulating your life. Can you cultivate a sense of loyalty to your higher self and the person that you are becoming, the deepest aspect of yourself? Intrinsically, can you cultivate that without a need to be dependent on these external things? And so to do this, we have mundane resets that we can do for ourselves, which would be as simple as putting down the electronics, having a morning and evening ritual, being mindful of the amount of stimulants that you use, namely caffeine. Caffeine is a big stimulant. And I know, a lot of clients of mine were drinking coffee first thing, putting acid on their stomach first thing in the morning when they wake up, instead of just hydrating yourself with water. The body does so many natural things within the first few hours of waking. The body and all of the organs that run in our bodies, they run on a clock. They run on a clock. So when you are sleeping, your body is resting and it is digesting. So if you worked out the day before, your body is breaking down that muscle, building new muscle. Your body is hopefully not digesting too much food. We don't want to be eating super close to our bedtime because, again, that's when your body is repairing. It's resting, it's digesting, it's repairing, it's going through that process. As you begin to wake up, your metabolism starts to come online, but we disrupt our metabolism and these natural flows that ultimately show up in the form of a lot of detrimental health issues when we are just pouring caffeine in and we're just pouring these synthetic things into our body. So we want to be mindful and we want to be hydrated. Y'all know I'm the hydration queen. I'm always talking about staying hydrated. So speaking of, let me get some water real quick. So I encourage you, if you can't take a vacation or if you can't go into silence, I mean, that's pretty, I wouldn't call it extreme because the place where my consciousness is, I think that extreme is constantly always being plugged up to a screen or an electronic or needing to always have some kind of noise. Like I feel like that is an extreme form of living because like there's no aspect of your nervous system that ever gets to rest if you are just constantly like here in a screen somewhere, like you're not present in your life. That's an extreme form of living because that's detrimental to your health. Totally not tapped in or tuned into what's happening in your internal world. Okay. So those are just simple, mundane ways of resetting yourself daily, just the quiet. And then there are more magical ways of resetting your life, like plant medicine journeys are super powerful. I've done some of those in my lifetime, and this will help to change. It has helped me to change my entire frame of mind about the beauty that I see in this world, about the art that I get to create through my personal expression, whether or not I am being witnessed. There is a way in which each of us live our lives that is unique unto us, and it is our life purpose above and all everything to be able to find that unique essence and to tap into that unique rhythm. So coming back to rhythms, we each have that rhythm, our circadian rhythm, which governs how all of the chemical processes flow in our body on that 24-hour cycle of a clock that we live on this planet in relationship to the sun and the moon, night and dark, light and day, light and night. Okay, there is a rhythm that we flow on. And then when we are resetting ourselves, there's also a rhythm that we can become aware of that happens as we move through the seasons. So this video is so timely because we are in the spring season. We are at the start of a Mercury retrograde. So I want you to ask yourself, when am I going to hit the reset button? How can I hit the reset button? Is it going to be a mundane way, or am I going to make it a deeper magical process? Am I going to get the 14-day mind, body, soul reset course and do that and learn about how to set my spiritual consciousness? Am I going to cut back on caffeine and take that reset? That's a more challenging reset, but it is a reset nevertheless. Am I going to cut back on electronics? Am I going to cut back on some of these relationships that are not feeding me? So I want you to ask yourself, how are you going to take a small or a large reset and do it within the next 30 days? Don't leave it off for the future. Don't procrastinate on it. I want you to put it in your calendar. Do it within the next 30 days. You owe your inner goddess this work. And with the way that everything is happening in the world and it being a dragon year, I believe that this month, April, is the last month where that dragon energy is going to be underground. I believe that this is one of the last months of this year that we have, and also tapping into some of my astrologers, this is the last month that we have to get that inner work done, to ask those real questions about how we want this year to unfold for us, which is going to lead us into the rest of our lives. The past is the present and the present is the future. So it's so important for us to be doing that and really consider how we are doing that and being intentional about it, journaling it out, and also recruiting that masculine energy. Check out the video on being a gold digger and recruiting our masculine energy to bring us some structure so that we can have comfort and flow in our lives. Another thing that I have learned from resetting my energy, and another thing that has really influenced me to reset my energy, was really just my struggle to overcome ancestral trauma and to heal from ancestral trauma. There was just so much trauma in my mind and in my body, and even things from my past life that just created so much of a struggle for me, and not having the guidance that I needed. When I really got sick and tired of being sick and tired around college, like late college, after college time, and I really started to take these reset processes, I started to realize that I was doing a lot of healing by doing this. Not only that, but another interesting thing that I actually discovered was that I was actually changing time. I was actually changing the way that time worked for me. And if you start to get into, what is the name of I believe it's string theory, and there are some other metaphysical theories that are actually very relevant to our conscious awareness, that actually show us that time is relevant. Time is relevant to where you are in space and where your consciousness is in space. So, for example, if your consciousness is always stuck in the past, it's going to show up in your vibrational field as you aging more quickly and feeling more dense and more heavy, because you are not energetically and emotionally current. And we talk about this inside of my latest course that's coming up, which I will be announcing soon. It's coming up soon. I'm working on it as we speak. All right. But what I really found, and as I was preparing for this video and channeling for this video, I actually realized that the reason that I look so young, so like the average person tells me that I look 28. Most of the time when I ask people, they're like, you look like you're 28. I don't look like I'm about to be 40, y'all. Well, not about to be, but in a couple years. And it's kind of wild to me because like I feel like I'm in my 20s. I look like I'm in my 20s, and my energy is just popping and I feel so amazing in my body. But what I realize is that one of the reasons that I look so young is because vibrationally I have this youthful energy, because I have spent so much time this quest this quest of self-discovery and authenticating myself as a sovereign being in this physical existence, by intentionally learning how to master my mind, body, and spirit, and becoming the governing power over my entire facility, which is what I encourage within this temple and within the Goddess Mystery Academy. Check it out on yambs.co. It's linked below. I've actually found that this quest and this pursuit of drawing deep intentional awareness to my mind, body, and soul ship, and this dedication of mastering my nutritional lifestyle and my nutritional frequency through this 14 mind, body, soul reset course. It's linked below. And through all of the inner work that I have done, the inner child work, the shadow work, the past life work, the energetic and the energy body work has actually shifted the way that time works in my life. So I truly believe that, and this is just a channel that I had about myself, like I divinely intuited this, and we all have the power and the ability to do this for ourselves. I truly believe that this quest of really not focusing on the masculine paradigm and the masculine pursuits of life and really being dedicated to this inner goddess work, this mind, body, soul work, has actually slowed down time for me. And as I get older, it gets weirder and weirder because I look a lot younger than I actually am. And like, it was just the weirdest thing turning 36 years old today. I mean, not today, but this year. And then looking in the mirror and looking like, oh my God, I look younger or the same as I did when I was 30. Like, it's just really, it's getting really, really weird for me. And I am a firm believer that the reason that this has happened is because I have altered my personal timeline, and it wasn't even intentional, but I have altered my personal timeline through all of this inner work and all of this healing that I have done, again, through the inner child work, the past life work, the becoming emotionally current. And so what I'm saying is as you become dedicated to your inner goddess and you start to shed off the pollution of the stimulants and of the trauma that we keep in our body, you naturally are going to slow down the hands of time and you are going to de-age yourself. But at the same time, you actually elevate your consciousness, which is why it's so weird because I'm very wise. I've always been wise, but I get wiser and wiser. But then I look so young. So it's just like this weird thing that I'm experiencing as I age. But it's just incredible because as I get older and my body gets younger, I just have so much understanding of the things that I really did not know before. And that is why it's so important to be finding these times to reset, because how else are you going to discover these answers to questions that you didn't even know unless you reset and you take the time to go on these personal quests and on these journeys. And so as a result, you start to live like a much more textured and a much more delicious life, which then of course comes with with its special set of circumstances, because once you start to see things then you can't unsee it, but I would rather live with those issues than live with the issues that I had when I was not awakened as a goddess, when my inner goddess was not awakened, and when I was defined by whatever my career choice was going to be and whatever people thought of me and however people were viewing me and the judgments that they were casting on me. It was so heavy for me. My skin didn't look good. My weight, I was overweight. I was always tired because I was just absorbing and holding on to all of this energy. And so I'm encouraging you to join the academy, jump in. There's going to be a new course coming up soon. Join the email list so that you can get that pre-registration, so that you can get in for that registration price and start to have fun with me and elevate your vibration. And remember, I'm challenging you within the next 30 days to find some kind of reset or a daily ritual where you can take small moments to reset your energy. I've had a great time doing this video with you. I love you each, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah.